I was just listening to this guy who on a live for about 5 or 10 minutes. He goes live just about every day, and he goes by the name Roy underscore God Saves All, and his whole message is that there is no hell and that every single person is going to be saved. And it's just shocking to me that people can believe that nonsense. It really shocks me that people can believe this stuff. And here's the way I look at it. Yeah, it's crazy. But here's the way I look at it. First of all, I have no idea how anyone looks at read the Bible. Even if you took the Bible and you just read it just because you got assigned to read it in school. Let's say you read the Bible, you don't believe it, but you read it. There's no way that you could come out of the scriptures, whether you are a believer or not, and not have a clear understanding of what hell is, and that it is a place of eternal retribution, and that it is a place where God exacts his justice where justice had not been exacted. And justice has not been exacted on all of those souls who have not put their trust in Christ. So the idea that a person who claims to be a Christian would be teaching people that there is no hell is diametrically opposed to the gospel that we were given to communicate to the lost. Blows my mind. It's an unfathomable assertion coming from the mouth of someone who claims to be a Christian, which just really shows that we are truly dealing with an apostate world, a world that is progressively becoming more and more apostate, meaning rejectors of the faith. It's such an amazing thing. I don't really get it. And especially when you consider this. One of the most popular words to come out of the mouth of a Christian is the word salvation. We preach to people and share the gospel with people and disciple people because we want them to have and we want them to become saved, to have salvation. But if there is no hell, you have to ask yourself, what is it you're being saved from? In order for us to preach with urgency the good news of the gospel, because it saves you from the bad news of condemnation, eternal condemnation. If you begin to preach a message where you say there is no hell and that every single person is going to be saved, well, let's just turn off the Bible, because there's no point. There's no point in trying to share to the lost, because the reality is if they're all going to be saved and if there is no retribution in this life, for how you live in this life, why have a Bible? Easy grace. That's right, Carolyn. Easy grace, easy believism, easy salvation, but a salvation that doesn't require redemption. Because the other thing that you have to ask yourself when it comes to hell, if you say there is no hell, that there is no eternal retribution, you have to ask yourself, then why did the eternal Son of God come to earth and sacrifice himself on our behalf? Because the whole reason for him sacrificing himself, laying himself down as a lamb, is to be slaughtered as our substitute. Well, if there is no slaughterhouse, basically, waiting for those who rejected Christ, then what is the point of Christ coming down and being and suffering for sin? Because the whole idea is he suffers for us so that we don't suffer after we leave here. But these guys are teaching that there is no suffering to deal with afterwards when you die, and you're all going to be saved anyway. So the whole idea of preaching that there is no hell and no eternal retribution means that there's also no significance and no purpose whatsoever in Christ putting on human flesh and dying on our behalf. And it wasn't just his death that saved us. It was the wrath of God that he bore for us. Our sin was put upon him, and as a result, the wrath of God was put upon him, so that we do not have to undergo the wrath of God later. So if you teach that there is no hell, then you are undermining the very significance of the cross. Because the cross is supposed to be a glimpse into what happens to those who don't look to Christ for salvation. So there's a bunch of oddballs out there who are vigorous in their efforts to convince people that there is no hell and that every single person ever born will go to heaven, which is a lie. And all of those who preach that and teach that are not from God. I don't care who they are.